Om. So we have seen two steps so far: gate of inspiration, that is gaining Kensho, and then gate of practice, where one comes to shining through the mental phenomena or dharmas as they are called, and attains to the state of equality. So we have seen two. There are two more stages that are being described here. The third one is the gate of awakening. The gate of awakening. After you have reached the non-dual realm of equality of reality, it is essential that you then clearly understand the awakened one's profound principle of differentiation. So here he is talking about the profound principle of differentiation. So we need to come to this third stage. After you have reached the non-dual realm of equality of reality, it is essential that you then clearly understand the awakened ones. Awakened ones means the person who is awakened, profound principle of differentiation. After this, you must master the methods of helping sentient beings. So only after knowing the principles of differentiation, one should go to help others. Otherwise, even though you have developed and attained unhindered knowing, you will nevertheless remain in the nest of the Hinayana and will be unable to realize total unobstructed knowing. So, of course, he is referring to the Shravakayana or the Hinayana as it is called, means the lower vehicle. So in the lower vehicle, the aim of an individual is to gain liberation for oneself. But they are not in a position to help others. So if you want to help others, which requires more insight than what even the clarity, as we said, the knowing clarity of equality or equality of all the phenomena, that is not sufficient. You further practice, and that practice will give you all the knowledge of the principle of differentiation. Okay, then you will be able to help others. Attain the unhindered knowing, you will nevertheless remain in the nest of the Hinayana and will be unable to realize total unobstructed knowing. So the first two steps do not give total unhindered knowing. So that is still not a Buddha state. One is liberated for themselves, but they really do not know as the absolute self yet. That's what he's saying. You will lack freedom to change in any required way to help sentient beings. Okay? You will lack freedom to change in any required way to help sentient beings, to awaken yourself and others, and reach the ultimate great awakening where awareness and action are completely perfect. So if somebody stops at the two, they are awakened, but he differentiates the attainments of the third stage as a great awakening where they will be able to help even others, where the action, awareness, both are completely perfected. Otherwise, their actions are not perfected yet. This is why one must arouse an attitude of deep compassion and commitment to help all sentient beings everywhere. To begin with, you should study day and night the verbal teachings of the Buddha and patriarchs so that you can penetrate the principles of things in their infinite variety. Because these principles, as Buddha Vajana, as we called about, Buddha Vajana is the teachings of the direct Buddha. And it is also, we use another word, these are called sutras. And there is another word called Shastra. means the descendants of the Buddha who have also attained that wisdom. So the books written by them are called Shastras. So even though Sutras and the Shastras have to be mastered so that all the principles are under your command. Principles of things in their infinite variety. Ascertain and analyze one by one. The profoundest of the 5 houses and the 7 schools of Zen and the wondrous doctrines of the 8 teachings given in the 5 periods of the Buddha's teaching career. So different compositions, okay, by different patriarchs, and also the teachings of the Buddha at different stages as they are called. So they all are to be diligently studied and understood. Now, if you have any energy left over, you should clarify the deep principles of the various different philosophies. Having mastered what is available in the Buddhistic thought, now the other philosophies also should be understood, so that when somebody has a problem and they come to you but they belong to a different philosophical school, then you should be able to help them. That's what he means. The deep principles of the various different philosophies. However, if this and that get to be too much trouble, it will just waste your energy to no avail. But if one is not really capable, they don't need to attempt both what is taught by the Buddha and also, say, for example, what is taught by Vedanta or what is taught by the Jaina, etc. Whatever philosophies existed at that time. So one need not try to study them. If you thoroughly investigate the sayings of the Buddhas and the patriarchs that are difficult to pass through and clearly arrive at their essential meaning, perfect understanding will shine forth and the principles of all things should naturally be completely clear. Because there are very many scriptures, what is called as Buddha Vachana or the Tripitaka, and also the various Shastras, for example, those composed by Nagarjuna or maybe Vasubandhu, and there are many other great philosophers and great bodhisattvas who have accomplished Maitreya, Asanga. All those compositions should be read and thoroughly understood. If you do that, he says, then clearly arrive at their essential meaning, perfect understanding will shine forth and the principles of all things should naturally be completely clear. This is called the eye to read the sutras. This is called the eye to read the sutras. Now, the verbal teachings of the Buddhas and the patriarchs are extremely deep, and one should not consider that one has mastered them completely after one has gone through them once or twice. When you climb a mountain, the higher you climb, the higher they are. When you go into the ocean, the farther you go, the deeper it is. It is the same in this case. It is also like forging iron to make a sword. It is considered best to put it into the forge over and over, refining it again and again. Though it is always the same forge, unless you put the sword in over and over and refine it 100 times, it can hardly turn out to be a fine sword. Just like a swordsman who wants a great sword, a powerful, strong sword, obviously the sword has to be put in the forge, in the kiln, and beaten up and shaped and shaped. Similarly, when you study, what he means is you should study the Buddha Vachana and the works of the patriarchs repeatedly and contemplate on them. Penetrating study is also like this. Unless you enter the great forge of the Buddha and the patriarchs, difficult to pass through, and make repeated efforts at refinement, through suffering and pain, total and independent knowing cannot come forth. Penetrating through the barriers of the Buddha and the patriarchs over and over again, responding to being's potential everywhere with mastery and freedom of technique is called subtle, observing, discerning knowledge, discerning knowing. Again, penetrating through the barriers of the Buddha and the patriarchs over and over again, responding to being's potential everywhere with mastery and freedom of technique. So by study and contemplation, you are able to work with the different people, different beings, responding to the being's potential. So what is the potential of individual people who you want to assist? So that's what you're referring to. Everywhere with mastery and freedom of technique. So you are not bound by just one technique and then it doesn't work with some people and you are a failure. Such a situation would not occur because you are armed with various arguments and various techniques to be able to address many sentient beings. And this is called subtle, observing, discerning knowing. You do not investigate by means of intellectual. Now, this is a very interesting section. Do not think that you are proposing a solution based on simply intellectual techniques. That's what he's addressing here. You do not investigate by means of intellectual considerations. This way of knowing to save yourself and to liberate others, when completely fulfilled and mastered, is subtle, observing, discerning knowing. It is not based on the rules that one has stored in the memory by virtue of studying various scriptures. But this is primarily because of a subtle insight. Is subtle, observing, discerning knowing. This is the state of the perfectly fulfilled body of reward. This is the state of the perfectly fulfilled body of reward. It is associated with the westerly direction and called the gate of awakening. This is called the gate of awakening. Means when the actual understanding is not based on the intellect, but by simply subtle, observing, discriminating knowing. Discerning knowing. Discerning knowing means an intuition. That's what I mean. An intuitive knowing. Called the gate of awakening. It is like the sun having passed through the high noon, gradually sinking towards the west, while the great way of knowing of equality is right in the middle. The faculties of sentient beings cannot be seen, and the teachings of differentiation among things cannot be made clear. Teachings of differentiation among things cannot be made clear at stage number 2. So one has to pass through stage number 3 of studying various sutras and the shastras and contemplating on them continuously. If you do not stop in the realm of self-enlightenment as inner realization, again, see this, if you do not stop in the realm of self-enlightenment as inner realization, but instead cultivate this subtle, observing, discerning knowing, you have done what you can do. So one has to come to this stage 3 to attain this complete intuitive understanding of subtle, observing, and discerning knowing. So this is the Sakshi knowledge. This is the knowledge of the witness. you have done what you can do. Having done your work, done your task, you can reach the land of rest. Now you can reach the land of rest. This rest is not what the setting sun means. This resting is not what the setting sun means. It means that you have accomplished all the ways of knowing. The 3 ways of knowing are done here. Having fulfilled awakening, because awakening self and others, fulfillment of awareness and action is considered a real ultimate awakening. Real ultimate awakening is when it is fulfillment of awareness and action. That is called ultimate awakening, real ultimate awakening. Okay, now we go to the 4th stage, the gate of nirvana. The gate of nirvana. This is the secret gateway to the command of the mind and is the realm of ultimate liberation. This is the secret gateway to the command of the mind and is the realm of ultimate liberation. This is knowing without any kind of defilement, a virtue that is not created. A virtue that is not created. Knowing a virtue that is not created. There is only one that is not created. That is the self, true self. That is the self-established. So going to nirvana means going to that uncreated virtue. If you do not realize this way of knowing, you will not be able to do freely what you must be doing, what must be done to benefit yourself and others. It is the effortless way. It is the effortless way. Because the preceding way of knowing of differentiation is gained through correct practice. It is in the realm of cultivation. So previously, in the 3rd stage, it was by dint of effort, of study and contemplation, repetition, that one has come to the state of differentiation. But that is still cultivated. But that knowledge is still cultivated. Realization is gained by practice. It is therefore a way of knowing that is reached through effort. The way of knowing perfect action transcends bounds of practice, realization, and attainment through study. It is beyond any kind of distraction or explanation. It is beyond any kind of demonstration and explanation. One could say that knowing by way of differentiation is like the flower of complete awakening. One could say that the knowing by way of differentiation is like the flower of complete awakening. Practice is this flower coming into bloom. On the other hand, with the knowing and doing what needs to be done, the flower of full awakening and practice drops away and the fruit ripens. You cannot possibly see this even in a dream unless you have passed through the final stages of transcendence of our school. That is why it is said that at the last word you finally come to the impenetrable barrier. So here he has explained so far about the 3 stages. In the 3rd stage, it was primarily a lot of study of various scriptures and analyzing what has been taught and developing what is called a knowing by differentiation of different beings, let's say, of the differentiation of principles. But this is still a cultivated knowledge. It is not the knowledge inherent in the self itself directly. So that is what he is talking about, the gate of nirvana. So we will continue this in the next segment because that will take some time, 15-20 minutes. So we'll continue that in the next segment. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.